guys, okay, so this is my Module 3 reading and responses. I'm going to start with Effective Classroom Management, chapters 6 and 7. The main idea that I got from both these chapters was that engaging instruction and classroom management really go hand in hand. When you have one, you're going to have the other more easily. Meaning that if those students are engaged and they're excited about the material and they're ready to go, they're going to be less likely to get bored or frustrated or feel like they don't understand the material and fall back. They're going to be more likely to come up to you and ask questions, ask clarifying questions with their other students. So I really feel like engaging instruction is a great way to have classroom management bolstered and supported by. And one cannot work without the other, and they both need to be very strong in order to work together. So you can't just rely on engaging instruction to be your classroom management either. I am a big fan of the look when we're talking about discipline. Just communicating nonverbally with that student, saying, I know what you're doing, you know what you're doing, and you know that's not up to par. They know your expectations of them if you set those boundaries, and they know when they're passing those boundaries, and they will even look for you to give them that look. So I feel like that's a big thing right there. Calling on a student when they're not paying attention, or talking with another, saying, oh, Jimmy, Sally, whatever your name is, what did you get for number X? And then they're gonna, oh, I don't know, let me figure it out. Awesome. Talk to the person next to you. Everybody talk to the person next to you, and then we're gonna come back, okay? And then that way it's not just them being singled out. It's not embarrassing for them, but they know that you know. They get the material, they work with it, and then those two kids that were talking the whole time are engaging. I dropped you. Are engaging in the material and getting it into their brains. Okay, so and then also proximity, just being near a student will often force them to stop the inappropriate behavior, like texting through the whole entire class and saying, oh, you know, how's it going? And they just shove their phone in their pocket and they're ready to go. One thing I found really interesting was the idea of overlapping, being able to take in some information, like a student coming in with a sick note and still being able to facilitate your lesson at the same time. That's something that I need to work on, but it's a really great strategy, and those who are great at it, I feel, are just like top-notch teachers. So that's something that I would like to implement and try to work on, which I don't have that skill yet, but now that I've kind of seen it and seen a name of it and what the benefits are of it, I'm going to try to look out for opportunities for that. So going on to what should I do, chapter 5. So every day students are tested. That testing is recorded, and then we react to that testing. I found that very profound, that people were like, oh, testing is such a big deal. I'm like, they're tested every day. They may not call it a test, but they're tested every day. They're doing something to prove that they understand, that they don't understand, where they are. So it's interesting to me that, I forget what page that was on, but somebody said they are tested every day. And we react to the results of that testing. I also found it interesting in that chapter, the accommodations, bringing that student into the fold, as she said, and then not being able to do that kind of stuff with state testing. So maybe there was a better option for some sort of a different accommodation or an additional accommodation where that student testing was going to be more approachable for that student. So I know that it said something about it being a read aloud testing, so maybe they could practice more with every time they did like testing, they could be read aloud the questions as well as read them in front of them, or something like that. I don't know. It was a younger grade, I think 2nd or 3rd grade, so it's not where I'm familiar, but I thought something like that might help to include more testing, state testing, which you can't avoid, include orientation towards that. Overall, I think the relevance for everything was that students, they want to have interactive work, they want to have something that is engaging and something that they relate to. The taboo touches on that too, like, why is this content banned? Is there a reason for that, or is it just banned because someone didn't think it was appropriate? Is it able to be included in something not the things that are banned, but the things that are kind of looked sideways too, is able to be included in a respectful way. Just even referencing the fact that every politician that ever lived has lied, but why have they lied, and how did they get across those lies? And I feel like in the social studies context, that would make a lot of sense. Scientists, for me, it's a harder straight line to that, but the relevance of like a statistic, so this is a statistic of 1 out of every blah 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 does blah blah blah, the wording of that, how you're taking your data and creating a biased statistic from that, and the students need to know that everything is a little bit biased, and the level of bias can be greatly, like a lot or very little, but they need to understand that everything is written for a reason. Even those tests themselves are done for a reason. So being able to identify that and having the students understand that, just like our information, internet literacy, they need to be able to know that things have biases. There are lies that they will see, and they're going to think they're the truth because they're on the internet. And being able to identify those types of things, the type of resources that are reliable, that is something that they need to be taught, and that's up to us. Something that I can relate to is the question of, did they measure what I taught them? Did the testing measure what was taught? We talked about this bullseye idea of, this is the standard, this is what I taught, and this should be what I test. That's something that I struggle with. I want to make sure that I'm actually bullseyeing what is being taught, which is testing. So overall, I just see there's a relevance between them all of, is it relevant? Is it important to them? And is it testable? And if it's testable, how are we using that testing? How are we using that information to keep going with the instruction engaging in the first place? So these ones are all kind of all over the place for me. They weren't exactly related and relevant to each other as much. But the other chapters lined up pretty well for me. Okay, and that is it. Thank you. Bye.